therein lies that slippery slope down to those events that would seek to take them away from the path of self-actualization. So this video is going to be a very interesting exploration into some of the ancient Buddhist beliefs on semen retention. Now this is a subject matter that I cover quite comprehensively on this channel, but I wanted to dig a little bit deeper into some of the main teachings that kind of surround a lot of the religions in regard to sexual continence. You know, it's a very curious thought, isn't it, when we start to look at some of the fundamental teachings of not only Buddhism but Hinduism and Christianity and Judaism, that sexual continence and being a little bit more mindful about our sexual energy is always considered an integral pillar to the success of self-actualization. So in regards to the powers that semen retention can bring in relation to what the Buddhist believes, it's important for me to delineate one of the key doctrines of Buddhism, which is known as the idea of suffering, or dukkha. Dukkha is an essential aspect of life in which we start to experience attachment, craving, and desire to some of these things that flit intermittently throughout our lives. And you may experience these in simpler forms, like your desire for shiny object syndrome, I like to call it. Perhaps your new car or your current car isn't as new and as flashy as you would like it to be. And that can lead you to that craving of desire, of wish fulfillment, that you can experience that allure to some of these, again, more shinier objects. And it's typically in the material trappings of what you would consider someone to be successful. We mentioned cars, but also, you know, the latest technology, perhaps your phone, or the, again, trappings of wealth and the clothing you wear and the jewelry you also adorn yourself with. And the Buddhists believe that fundamentally this way of navigating through life is conducive to your own suffering. Desire, in fact, is a little bit like a contract that you make with yourself to be unhappy until you actually get that thing you desire, that car you desire, the clothing you desire, the jewelry you desire. And the Buddhists believe that this is nonsensical, that this actually takes you away from self-actualization, that you're putting all your energy into the external rather than the internal. So what do the Buddhists then believe that we should do? We should be content as we are. Similarly, and more conducive to the subject matter, when we think about sexual desire, lust, these things again create that contract that we make with ourselves to be unhappy until we have self-gratified ourselves. So this is a very good standpoint, or a very good foundation in which to act unto the world from a place of fulfillment and not seeking again any external validation in our journey towards self-actualization. Now, beyond the cessation of sexual activity, in ancient India, semen or sexual fluid is seen as life force energy. And of course, when you break it down into its fundamental purposes, that is the potential to create another human life, another human being with his own or her own hopes and dreams of creating businesses and finding love in the world and experiencing life to the fullest. And for the, let's say, Buddhist counterparts that are more compulsive, they can get lost in the pleasure around needlessly releasing that fluid. It is also said that excessive ejaculation begins to tax the nervous system, because consequentially, when you look at the results that happen after that specific event, you know, it's a very high potent energy exchange, again, life force energy. And when the nervous system is taxed multiple times a day, multiple times per week, you begin to become more susceptible to illness and disease, rendering the individual weak and diminished. When you compare this to the individuals that have a self-awareness of what this energy actually entails and begin to cultivate their divine essence, you see a huge juxtaposition between those individuals who are weak and diminished and those individuals who are heroic, powerful, full and vibrant in their own vitality. Not just tremendous physical powers and mental powers, but also the spiritual and may even supernatural powers begin to become present to those individuals. It is often said that this glow begins to emanate from the individuals that are cultivating this divine creative power within them. They are referred to as siddhis, and are, again, they come with this personal glow, this personal magnetism that makes them one of the core places in which people kind of go to for advice and a life worth living in congruence with the divine. But what is very paradoxical in this case is the effect it can potentially have on the opposite sex. So when, again, we begin to cultivate this divine essence, this divine creative energy, we begin to become one with the law of nature. We begin to see that this effect is very powerful on the individuals that would typically seek out that power. Females will begin to become naturally attracted to those individuals, and for the more esoteric reasons, but I think also the more rational reasons. Social anxiety begins to become something of the past. These individuals that will cultivate testosterone more abundantly and begin to show the more heightened masculine features, again, will become more consciously attractive to those individuals of the opposite sex. It is even said that these individuals begin to emit an aroma that is quite pleasant in smell after prolonged periods of retention. It moves more into the subconscious pheromone realms that we only have surface level understanding of, but you will have experienced perhaps the non-rational ways of attraction. You don't quite know why you're attracted to specific people. There's just something about them, and the females and females, the women specifically, will tell you that there is just something that can't quite be passed out from the rational and more obvious data to why they are feeling a specific way to these individuals. Finally, it is also said that these individuals who have cultivated this power are better lovers, as an integral part of their Buddhist teachings is to control the sexual reflex, be mindful of the emotions that arise in them when they start to feel desirous, and then more prone to, again, this notion of suffering, that contract of craving, that contract of attachment to the other, be it superficial material or to the more kinetic, pleasurable sensations that we can experience on a daily basis. And when they begin to experience that pull, they see those emotions as just a natural consequence of the body, but not something that they should be attached to, because therein lies the suffering, therein lies that slippery slope down to those events that would seek to take them away from the path of self-actualization. One of the, again, back to the premise of this idea that they are fundamentally better lovers, is they've learned to control this aspect of them. And when they do decide to engage in lovemaking, perhaps for the purpose of procreation or novel and non-indulgent pleasure, or such as pair bonding, they begin to come from this place of intention, and they can choose however long, or indeed however short, that period of lovemaking and pair bonding can last. So my friends, this was a very interesting insight into some of the more ancient views and opinions of Buddhism, and why sexual continence, restraint in that respect, is so important to move towards the path of self-actualization. I suppose if you were going to summarize it in a few words, you might say they are more concerned with the internal, and they know that the external will never be able to satisfy that innate human quench to evolve and get better and more higher value material things and experiences. And rather, they have come to the realization that the kingdom of God is within, that they have everything that they need, that the internal is going to bear far more fruit than being obsessed with the external. So brothers, if you enjoyed this video, if you subscribe to anything of which I have said, you can subscribe to me, and I'll see you again very, very soon. Take care, my friends.